guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do part 2 to the story I did a few hours ago, which is all about the guy who was set to be married, and then recently confronted his girl about the so-called best friend that she had for a year they never even met. And upon the suspicion, found out that girl that he never met was actually a guy, and that his fiancée had been lying for a whole year about this dude she was hanging out with, clearly having an affair with, etc., etc. And you all recall, he thought this girl was amazing. With her for 5 years, lived with her for a year, the stars were aligned, and then for a whole year she's lying about this so-called best friend, and it was actually a guy. And where we left off, he was demanding that I get to meet this girl in a few days or we're done forever. And of course his girl denied everything, thought he was overreacting, gaslit him, all that. And now we're going to pick up where it left off to see how she handles this situation, how she shows him this girl that she's been hanging out with a year to show him that he's crazy, nothing's wrong, and he can trust her and marry her, and how this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. So it continues on. He says here, Grace was spamming my phone with text messages after I left, but I didn't respond to any of them. It was nearly 11 o'clock at night when she texted me that she was disappointed in me, that I didn't trust her, but that Katie agreed to meet us for dinner on Saturday. Disappointed, huh? Twisting it around, making him out to be the bad guy. But wait a second. Since Katie is a guy and a Kyle, how is Katie going to show up and meet him for on Saturday? Well, I'm sure you guys are pretty much guessing what she's going to do. Knowing what I did, I had no idea what she had up her sleeves. But at the very least, it might be entertaining, so I texted her back and told her that I was looking forward to meeting her friend. One thing I did was make me start questioning what I thought I knew. What if Katie was real? Was it possible that Katie and Kyle were in a relationship and he just picked up her phone? It was a long shot, but still possible. I stayed at my parents' house until Saturday, and after telling my dad everything that was going on, his first response was that she's more than likely cheating on me. Listen to your old man. Trust your old man, for God's sakes. Of course she's cheating. This is bullshit. He followed that up with getting drunk and playing pool. My dad's an old school and awesome. Good for your dad. By the time Katie came along, I was stressed and anxious. By the time Saturday came along, I was stressed and anxious. I was fairly certain that she'd been lying to me, but on the off chance that Katie was real, and there was an acceptable excuse why a guy she works with that I never met or heard about until we were doing the seating arrangements just happened to answer Katie's phone. I'm big enough to admit when I was wrong. No matter how many ways I tried to rationalize everything, my gut was screaming at me not to be an idiot. Honestly, I was hoping that Kyle was going to show up and that Grace was going to tell me the truth. At least that would have demonstrated that she has some ounce of respect for me. Good luck there. Grace had texted me that Katie would be over around 6 p.m. earlier in the day, so I went back to our apartment around 5 to take a shower and cleaned up. When I got there, the first thing Grace said to me was how disappointed she was in me, that I didn't trust her, and that we were going to need to talk about everything if we were going to work out. Oh my God. She's obviously full of shit and has things up her sleeve, but see guys, the lying, the twisting around, making you have to be the bad guy, I'm really disappointed in you. I just nodded my head and went to get cleaned up while she was starting dinner. When I finished, I went in and helped Grace finish cooking dinner, but it was mostly done in silence. I had no idea what to expect, but she was acting like she had already won. It was just before 6 p.m. when the door rang and Grace let her friend in. I was a little surprised to see a woman standing there with a bottle of wine. If you guys are thinking what I'm thinking, that she had somebody else pretend to be Katie, then obviously that's what's going on here. Good freaking Lord. I wish I could say that they were acting nervous or shady, but Grace was her usual self and Katie was all smiles and pleasant through introductions. I told them to have a seat in the dining room and I would get the food. I'm not sure what I was looking for, but for the life of me, I didn't see any behaviors that were telling me that they weren't really good friends and was making me doubt what I thought I knew. Well, who the hell is this woman here? Good Lord, she hire an actress? Dinner went pretty well, and early on, Katie apologized for not making the effort to meet me before then. I asked about her own relationship and if her boyfriend had met Grace, and they both said that he hadn't. I asked her how long they'd been together, and she smiled and said almost 4 months, almost 4 years. and we're planning on getting married next year. We did the small talk, and I asked about what he did for a living, if they wanted kids, and how they met. She seemed genuine in her answers because she was told everything. She was well coached. I asked her what his name was, and she told me his name was Robert. Gut punch. So much for my theory that Kyle and Katie were a thing, or that there was a reasonable excuse for why he would be answering her phone. It was more than I could take. At the very least, this was all just another lie to cover up a different lie, and I think both of them saw my mood change. Grace asked me what was wrong, and I just spent a minute or two staring at her. At that point, it was clear that she'd been lying to me, and the best thing I could have done was to get up and leave. But I wanted her to be honest with me for once. Just to show me that I was more to her than a fool. Maybe I was pain shopping, I just don't know. I knew I was grasping for straws, but I spent over 5 years with Grace. We planned our entire future together. I needed more than a guy answering her friend's phone. The only thing I knew for sure was that he did answer it, and it was possible that she would be able to explain it away and make me out to be some insecure little child. I almost asked to see Katie's driver's license, but as soon as the thought entered my mind, I knew it was crazy. I think I might have zoned out a little bit because when I came back to my senses, Grace was looking a little panicked and asked me what was wrong. That was when it hit me. This was easy enough to figure out. I excused myself from the table for a minute and went to her office and got the phone number I had written down from her phone and went back to the table. Now this is going to get interesting. When I returned, both of them looked a little nervous, but Grace was still asking me what was going on. God, is she a professional poker player? I told her I needed her to tell me the truth, and I swear to God that when she told me, she didn't know what I was talking about. If not for already calling that number that Kyle answered, I would have believed her. I pulled my phone out and the paper that I had written the number and keyed in on. I told Grace that I had the phone number from Katie that was on her phone, and I was going to call it. If this woman's phone sitting across me started ringing, I would apologize and even go to couples counseling. But if someone else answered the phone, our relationship was over. Well played, my man. I didn't even need to hit the call button. As soon as I told her what I was going to do, I could see the surprise and guilt all over her face, and she started begging, saying that it wasn't what I thought and she could explain. Do they have the book? They all have the book that has these lines they say in these situations. It's called the Hoe Bag Handbook. I'm going to get the trademark for the Hoe Bag Handbook and read all this shit in there. Because obviously there's this book going around that the girls have these lines for. Can explain everything? Oh, please do, honey. It felt like my heart died. I almost got up to leave, but in for a nickel, in for a dollar. I told her to explain, and she said that they were only friends, and she knew that I wouldn't be okay with her having guy friends, but she was swearing there was nothing physical going on between them. These little fucking teenagers just ran by the car screaming and carrying on. Dumbass kids. Where was I? She swore nothing physical was going on between them. I told her I didn't care. She'd been dating another man for a year and lying to me about it. I asked her how I was supposed to believe a single word that tumbled out of her mouth now that I know she's a liar and been cheating on me for a year. She tried to say that she wasn't cheating, but I told her that if I had done the same thing to her with another woman, I would have seriously doubted she would be okay and as understanding as she was expecting me to be. Even if they weren't hooking up for a year, which why would they be hanging out, spending that much time? Still, she was lying for a whole year. Okay, hanging out with this dude, making up all these stories, getting a girl to pretend to be somebody else. You get the point? There's no going back here. And of course they're hooking up for a year. Please. I looked at Katie and asked if her boyfriend knew that she was helping her friend cheat on her fiancé and how she thinks he would react if I told him that she was doing that, and she freaked out. She says she didn't know what was going on and to please not to tell her boyfriend. I said, I'll think about it, but I think it's time for you to leave. I wouldn't say she ran out of the apartment, but she was definitely fast-stepping. Get your ass out of my place. By the time Katie closed the front door, Grace was in a meltdown, my favorite word, crying and saying that I didn't understand and talking about how much she loved me and how we could work everything out. Yeah, sure. Again, if he'd done the same thing, you think she'd be so understanding? I told her we were over. The fact that she brought a woman into my home to pretend to be the person she's been spending time with for over a year was a level of deviousness and deception I could never get past. I told you guys this is the craziest fucking story I've heard in a long time. A whole year she was cheating on with this guy and pretending it was a BFF. And then upon confronting, brings a fucking actress or some girl he's never met to pretend to be this person. Who the fuck does this? I asked her why she did it. I know I'll never get the truth from her, but she said that she didn't think she was doing anything wrong. Then you're a sociopath. And that I was misunderstanding the situation because she wasn't cheating on me, and she was swearing there was nothing physical going on. Yeah, right. I just laughed and told her that I already knew she was a liar and how far she's willing to go to cover her lies. That if she didn't think she was doing anything wrong, there wouldn't be any reason to lie to me at all. She was begging me not to break up over this, and that she would do anything to prove that she could be trusted. Prove that you're trusted? You've done nothing but prove you can't be trusted for the last freaking year. And when I give you a chance to come clean, you made me feel like I'm this insecure child and got your friend or hired some actress to come over and pretend to be this character. No, you cannot be trusted. I told her no. I've wasted enough of my life on you and asked for the engagement ring back. At first, she didn't want to give it back to me. Shocker. But I told her that if I had to take her to court to get it back, I would, as well as telling her family and all her friends what she's done to me. It took about 10 minutes of back and forth, but she gave me back the ring. I told her that she had to be out of the apartment within the next month. She argued that it was her apartment too, and that I couldn't kick her out. Well, I guess legally she was right, so I fixed that little problem. I got up, went to her room, and started packing my clothes. The entire time I was packing, she was shadowing me, begging me not to ruin our relationship because she made a mistake. Mistake my ass. A mistake is one little small thing, not a whole year of calculating and planning and manipulating and gaslighting and all other bullshit. Not to mention effing that other guy. I snapped. I yelled at her for the first time in our relationship and told her, you didn't make a mistake, you fucking cheated on me for over a year, lied to me, gaslit me, and even brought someone here to pretend to be the person you've been spending time with. On top of that, you invited that asshole to our wedding. I told her that she made thousands of decisions to go behind my back and cheat on me, and she had the effing nerve to call it a mistake. I was so effing angry I almost hit her, but thankfully I did not. It's good you didn't. I regret what I said next, but all my emotions were all over the place. I told her that I thought you were special. I love you with everything I had, and it turns out that you are just a useless SLUT, and I hope no other man is unlucky enough to take you seriously. I would have given you the world, but you don't deserve me. I told her that someday she was going to look back on this time of her life and realize that she lost the best thing that ever happened to her, and it was all her fault. Dude, I have no problem with you saying that. You had every right to say that. And she did fuck up the best thing in her life. From her reaction, you would have thought that I punched her in the face. She fell on the floor crying. Like she literally collapsed. And she's on the ground, moaning and wailing. And man, I wish you recorded that. I ended up leaving and going to my parents' house and told them everything. I could tell my dad felt bad for me, but he said he was proud of me how I handled it. My mom, on the other hand, was furious. She was on the phone with Grace's mom and almost immediately telling her what a horrible daughter she had. It was a little shocking. I'd never heard my mom speak that way to anyone. Hey, go mom. I probably shouldn't have, but I spent the rest of my evening in my dad's man cave, soaking my misery with some bourbon, watching my phone blow up with frantic text messages, and trying to figure out what not to do, or what to do. Dude, I don't drink. Or at least I hardly ever do. And even I would probably be chugging some bourbon after all that bullshit. Probably tequila, actually. Not about Grace. I was done with her. There's just no way that I could ever trust her again, and I wasn't willing to put in the work when she didn't have a problem dating another guy behind my back and smiling to my face. I had a lot of things that were already set for the wedding to cancel, and I need to figure out what we were going to do with the apartment. By the way, guys, if you think the craziness with Grace is over with, we're not done yet. There's more bullshit. When I woke up Sunday, other than feeling like crap from the drinking, I wasn't really angry. Mostly, I was feeling numb and sad that the last 5 years of my life ended up in a train crash. But at least I found out before we got married. If there's a silver line to any of this fucking story, yeah, at least you didn't marry her. But, oh my God, this is insane. It was a little bit after noon when Grace called me to talk. I didn't really have anything to say, but I knew that we still had to take care of canceling all the wedding plans and figure out what to do with the apartment. Note to self, never put a woman's name on the lease agreement. I told her I would be over around 3 p.m. and hung up, and she started begging me to talk to her. F you, honey. I knew the day was going to be bad, but I had no idea what was coming. When I went into the apartment, Grace was laying on the couch crying, but as soon as she saw me, she jumped over and ran over and tried to give me a hug. I'd be like, get your slutty hands off me. I stopped her and told her no, and that we needed to sit down and figure out everything that we needed to be canceled for the wedding and work out which one of us was going to stay in the apartment. Yeah, I'm sure that went over well. That only made her start bawling, and she was saying that I didn't understand, and she was swearing she never cheated on me. I was just numb. It was almost like watching something was happening to someone else. God, she's still sticking with that story. Remember? Well, she was sticking with the story that, what the hell's her name? I can't think of her goddamn name. Katie. She was sticking with that whole name that Katie was not Kyle and invited somebody over, but you're supposed to believe her that they weren't hooking up or anything like that. Even if you were, it doesn't fucking matter. I went to the office and got my laptop and took it to the dining room table and started going through all the reservations that we had made, while Grace was sitting across from me, crying and insisting that I was making a mistake, and she was so sorry for lying to me, but she could explain. I asked her what was there to explain. You dated another man for a year and lied to me about it. I told her to stop crying because she did this to us. She then asked me to please let her try to explain and to not give up on our relationship. Unbelievable. This could be a freaking movie. I was mostly frustrated at this point, but if this is what it was going to take to get this nonsense over with, why not? I told her, fine, explain how I'm overreacting. She stood up and said she promised it wasn't what I thought it was and walked out of the apartment, leaving me pretty confused. A few minutes later, she came back in and there was a guy with her. My mind went blank. Gee, who could that be? I don't think it's the freaking, her boss. I don't think it's the freaking garbage man. It must be Kyle. She brought him over and introduced him. It was Kyle, and he looked nervous, but said hello, and he was sorry that he was in the middle of this misunderstanding. This mother fucker had the nerve to come to your place and keep up with this charade. He's lucky he didn't knock his freaking teeth out. He went on to say he understood what it looked like, but he was swearing that he and Grace were only friends and they had never done anything. Sure, dude. Dude, get the fuck out of here. I would like to say that I'm fairly a reasonable guy, but I was sitting there in complete shock at what was happening. I sat there watching both of them for a few minutes when my brain caught up to me. I looked at Grace and told her that she had to be fucking kidding. Grace was crying again and swearing that they were only friends. And Kyle was saying that it was all just a misunderstanding. As angry as I was, I'm still surprised by how calm my voice was. Mostly I wanted to punch him in the face, but I asked him if he was married or in a relationship. He said he was single. Then I asked, so do you make it a habit of befriending women that are in relationships? He tried to say it wasn't like that, but I cut him off. I asked him what did he have to gain by dating Grace for a year behind my back if he wasn't sleeping with her. Duh. That's when Grace started swearing they had never done anything, and he was saying that he only hung out as friends. No woman is going to go to those lengths to hide a guy and everything she did, make him pretend he's a girl, all that, if they weren't hooking up and she wasn't madly in love with him. Get the fuck out of here. I asked him how he got here so fast, and Grace said he was waiting in the parking lot so they could both talk to me. Maybe I'm an a-hole, but I didn't care. I looked him in the eyes and asked if he spent the night here, and I think the blood drained from his face and he was shaking his head. Yeah, sure, dude. Grace looked shocked and started by saying something, but I cut her off. I told Kyle it was time for him to leave or he'd be taking a ride in an ambulance, and thanked him for helping Grace ruin the last 5 years of my life. He apologized for the misunderstanding and left not long after that. Grace was near hyperventilating, still trying to convince me that it wasn't what I thought. Guys, I told you the lengths the gals will go to cover up their bullshit. All the proof is right there, and still she's lying through her teeth. Unbelievable. If this was a guy who didn't have a lot of self-respect and was a lot like these weak guys in these stories, he probably eventually would have caved because she just won't back down. I told her that we were over because she lied and deceived me. I had no idea if she ever cheated or not, but the lies were enough to know that I could never trust in a relationship. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. It was 1,000 choices she made. 10,000 choices she made. Even if she thought I would have been against the idea of spending time with another man, which I reminded her was one of the rules we both agreed to when we started dating, was enough to know I couldn't trust her. And then she brought over the guy that she's more than likely been effing behind my back to try and convince me that I'm making a mistake. I told her to sit down so we can make sure everything gets canceled and hopefully get some of our money back. And she needs to decide if she wants to the apartment or if she's going to leave. Long story short, I know, too late, I ended up keeping the apartment but lost over $3,000 in deposits for the wedding. Never doing that shit again. Her parents came over with a moving truck and helped her move out. Her dad asked me if I was sure that this is what I wanted to do. Are you kidding me, Dad? And I told him no. I didn't want any of this. It was what I had to do. Then he said that breaking up just because she has a guy friend was a bit extreme. Clearly, Dad didn't get the full story here from the women in the family. It was clear he didn't get the whole story, so I told him everything. When I finished, I could tell he was angry, but he thanked me for being civil and apologized for what Grace had done. Now she'll lie through her teeth to her dad. Dad, you don't understand. It was a misunderstanding. He finishes up his tale saying, she tried for nearly a year to get me to talk to her, but eventually got the message I wasn't interested. God, talk about persistence. As for me, I'm still single and plan on staying that way for the foreseeable future. Dude, nobody can blame you. I guess it's possible that she wasn't cheating on me and that I made a huge mistake. But it was the lies and manipulation I couldn't get past. If she could lie about that, she could lie about anything. I know there are some people out there that don't have a problem with their partners having friends of the opposite sex, but in my experience, it doesn't work. I agree. Even after all this time, I still miss the life I had, but I have to wonder if any of it was even real. If I have any regrets from this ordeal, it's that I had no idea who the lady was that came to dinner because I really wanted to tell her boyfriend at the time, likely her husband by now, what his girlfriend was doing. I hope he fares better in love than I did, but I seriously doubt it. And that, gentlemen, is the end of this story. And like I told you, this is one of the craziest fucking stories I ever heard. Holy shit. A year. Pretending this dude who she, in my opinion, was sleeping with, obviously, was a girl. And the guy, understandably, because he thought he had a great thing with her, believed it. But after a while, he's kind of like, why have I not met this chick? So guys, if you relationship guys, if your girl has certain people that she hangs out with, but after a while you've never met, never heard from, whatever, for God's sakes, make sure this person's real and who she says it is. But like I said, a year, and he finally catches her, and she denies it, then gets some girl to pretend to be this person, right? And still, oh my God. Bro, I'm so sorry you went through all this fucking shit. But if, like I said, like a lot of these stories, at the very least, you didn't marry her. Thank the Lord there. And I'm glad that you had the balls and the strength to call her out on her shit and not back down. If you were a guy that didn't have a whole lot of self-esteem, you would have caved, So I'm sorry you went through that, but let me tell you, you got the best story of all time. This will be a story you'll be telling the grandkids if you ever had any grandkids, let alone grandkids. But no one will blame you if you didn't. But this is certainly a story that many guys around the world are going to be talking about in the next couple of days. So I appreciate you sharing this. All I can say is bro, don't let her ruin you. Use this experience to... You sharing your story is going to help dudes out around the world. This is going to be a very popular video, guaranteed, and it will help guys around the world to remember red flags, trust your gut, make sure you know who her friends are, who she hangs out with, the lengths some of these gals are going to lie. all this stuff, and how a guy can't back down. So important. So I appreciate you doing this. And as I say to all the guys out there, just focus on you. Focus on things that make you happy, your goals, your hobbies, your ambitions, hanging out with your bros, people that love you and care about you. That's all you can do. And really make something of yourself in this life. And I wish you the best. And you get in a relationship down the road, you know what the hell to look out for. But again, guys, he did all the things I say to do. He spent 5 years with her before he even proposed. He waited till he was 30 years old. He lived with her for a year. And still, you saw what happened. So this is why I tell you guys, you got to do all these things if you're going to get married one day. But even then, you can never be sure. So, definitely a crazy one there. Alright guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let this guy know what you think. Definitely give him a shout out and some praise for being strong and kicking it to the curb and getting through this. He took the time to write this long-ass fucking story, so definitely show him some love in the comment section. He'll definitely appreciate it. And guys, you got a great story you'd like to share, definitely email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just be sure to give me some time to get to it, and I will if it's definitely a good one for the channel. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.